I think people fall in love with cities the same way that they do with people. There's the dependable one, the one that's just a fun time, and then there's the one that got away. Cities are more than just places. They're physical markers of our past selves, time machines that transport us back to different versions of who we used to be. And nowhere does this feel more true for me than New York City. So much of my real adult life happened in New York. This is where I started my first real job, danced into the wee hours of the morning, became a mother, and lived through a global pandemic. But if New York were a past relationship, it would be one of those semi-toxic kind where there's a lot of love there, but also some deep philosophical challenges that make the future feel really uncertain.
I'm going back to New York. I don't know what to expect. It's like you're seeing an old boyfriend or something.
It is without question that New York is a hard place to live. It's expensive, there's subway breakdowns, there's people peeing in the subway, the street parking signs are so hard to understand, and trying to raise kids in this context is stressful and complicated. Moving to Geneva was the cleanest break I could have ever had from my fledgling relationship with the city. When we left in 2022, everything felt distinctly more muted compared to New York, but our life had changed so much with the addition of 2 kids that over time, Geneva has started to feel like the reliable life partner I never knew I needed. I haven't visited New York much since we left, only once or twice on a business trip, and now I'm going back for the first time in 3 years.
Okay, let's talk about our restaurant plans.
I have 6 meals. Well, 9.
I want to go to Thai Diner tonight. That's my favorite restaurant in New York. I wouldn't mind going to the Whole Foods Hot Bar. And stores close at 10 p.m.
On Sundays.
What a luxury.
I definitely feel a little nervous going back to the city, and I kept trying to anticipate how I was going to feel. Would I have culture shock? Would I feel safe? Would I remember the subway lines? I was excited, but strangely, I was also nervous. Like maybe being back in the force field of New York would suck me in again. Or maybe I've changed and I wouldn't feel the same way about the city, and I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It feels so good to be back in the city again. I cannot believe how long it has been. A couple of quick notes on the city. In the subway, there was a man that was just like had his speaker just playing music. I totally forgot that this is completely normal in New York City. This would never happen in Switzerland. Like to play like to just blare music from your speaker. This would be like so against the code of mutual like public respect. Also on the subway, there was a man who just pulled out a beer in a bag and just, casually drinking his beer. Just makes me happy to see kind of people like doing whatever they want.
We didn't have the most romantic arrival. After landing at JFK, we took the trains to Soho, and I was in complete shock by how little things have changed. When the voice on the subway came on, something clicked in my brain, and I felt like I time traveled back to 2016. It really showed me the power of place, space, and energy. I started to walk faster, talk faster. We packed the first few hours walking around the city from light until dusk.
Okay, where do we even start? Do we start with snacks, beverages? Let's go downstairs maybe. Oh, wait, here, hold on. I tell you, the food ingenuity is amazing. There's stuff everywhere. Dark chocolate cherries, dark chocolate sea salt, quinoa crisps, dark chocolate, milk chocolate quinoa. No, see, I like these kind. Oh, this is the crunchy. This is what we have to get. Okay, this is mine. See, I like to start with a little healthy base and then add some unhealthy things. And this is Kyle's.
I always do it. I always overdo it.
What is it about nostalgia that just melts you into a googly-eyed fool? Everything felt sentimental. Everything. Taking the subway at Union Square took me on all my old commute paths, old office buildings, old lunch spots. I walked by a building in Soho and suddenly flashed back to wobbling down the same street at 28 weeks pregnant. a memory I have not thought about in a good 7 years. I'd find myself on another street and silently laugh at the memory of my frequent lunchtime power grocery shopping, unabashedly bringing back a full bag of Trader Joe's cheese puffs to enjoy over an afternoon conference call. The sun shined and I was swept away by the life I had. And I guess that's when the mind games start to come in. Do you like a place because it's familiar? Because you know what it's going to feel like when you put it on? I didn't know anymore because I was so caught up in the warm embrace of the memories. For me, visiting New York, it feels like catching up with an old friend who basically doesn't change. Even if I'm in a different place in my life, doing different things, being with different people, I can become that old person again. I can feel myself drawn back into the old dreams, thoughts, feelings that I had when I was there. In these past few years living in Geneva, my life has changed so much. I left my corporate job, I became a mother of 3, a homeowner, I spend my Wednesdays shuttling my kids between their extracurricular activities, and I spend my own birthdays usually hiking up a mountain instead of having dinner at the latest, coolest new restaurant. I found new rhythms, new people, and new traditions that I hold very close. But I guess I didn't realize until I went back that in order to make space for something new, you have to let go of something else. And in this new era of my life, I've made a lot of space for this different life I'm living. And in a way, it has shaped me into a bit of a different person. Maybe it seems obvious, but when I stopped doing my New York City commute, stopped working my New York City job, stopped going to the New York City restaurants, yes, my lifestyle changed, but I changed too. And when I stepped back in New York, I was overwhelmed at the tension, the friction between these two identities. I wasn't just returning to a city I once lived, but to a former version of myself. Being in the city, it felt like the old me came back. I started to miss the daily commute, to miss the grind, the feeling of what it felt like to live that life. Because amidst all the hardness of New York, there are certain moments that I just cannot explain that make no sense, like the thrill of hailing a taxi, the view stepping into Lincoln Center, or when you're being serenaded by a saxophone on the subway stand. For me, feeling those moments again, it was like a reminder that even in chaos, the world is still good. Some of my former flame for the city came back, but more importantly, some of the former zest for my own identity and my own pursuits came back too.
Honestly, it has felt so amazing to just be on this trip with me and Kyle. Like to have unlimited amount of time every day in New York City just to wander the streets. I mean, I feel like I could just walk around the whole day. And that's basically what we've done. We've just been out like the entire day, going from thing to thing.
When you actively choose to leave the place that you grew up in and go live somewhere else, it's just human nature to compare the two. To compare the life you're living with the alternate version B of your life. How would I feel? And B, if I lived in New York again? Would I be happier, more successful, more fulfilled? I used to remember my mom always talking about regret. It never made any sense to me to have regrets, because if you just made the right decisions in life, then wouldn't that solve this problem? But as you get older and your life becomes more layered, I see now how it's not so easy to know what right is, and that what's right isn't always a black and white decision. For now, it's safe to say that for the majority of my life, I don't harbor any regrets for the life choices that we've made. And after 4 days in the city, I think I managed to narrowly escape the force field of its magnetism. But I certainly wouldn't want to regret never living there again in the future. Because maybe just like people, certain places never stop feeling like they could have been the one.